She trusted him with her heart, but when the truth surfaced from beneath his perfect lies, her love became her greatest danger and her only weapon. The chandelier light refracted in the champagne, throwing slivers of gold across the ballroom. But Elena Hartwell only felt the sting of humiliation as it shimmered around her. She had sentenced men to life in prison with less emotion than she felt standing at the Meridian Hotel, cloaked in silence and a black dress that whispered elegance but screamed invisibility among the crowd dripping in designer confidence. Her sister Victoria, radiant and ruthless, floated on a sea of admiration, her voice gilded with charm and sharpened with superiority. Elena watched as the younger Hartwell daughter performed her engagement speech, polished and poisonous, slicing Elena's identity down to a punchline for the elite crowd. Paperwork, filing, simple things, the smirk on Victoria's lips after her final toast was the kind that bloomed only from years of unchecked power. Elena held her position, her wine untouched, her expression unreadable, though inside a storm gathered force. She thought of her courtroom, the place where truth was sharp, justice final, and her voice carried real weight. But here, she was the family shadow again, the forgotten sister, the mistaken clerk. Her mother's critical eyes had already scanned and dismissed her. Her father, always absent except for praiseworthy moments, had nodded only at Victoria's proclamations. It was routine, a script Elena knew too well. What she hadn't expected was Margaret Donnelly's voice slicing through the fog of deception with clarity and recognition. Margaret saw her, knew her, named her truth in front of the man her sister planned to marry. Superior Court Judge. 4 words and the facade began to crumble. Elena watched the color drain from Marcus Sterling's face, the confusion bloom as he glanced from Margaret to Elena and back again. The realization that he had been fed fiction, that the woman he was about to marry had lied not just by omission but by design, settled heavily between them. Victoria's carefully curated illusion was beginning to shatter, and with each revelation, the weight of years of dismissal lifted slightly from Elena's shoulders. When Marcus asked hesitantly about the nature of Elena's work, her voice remained steady as she listed the kinds of cases she presided over: felonies, corruption, high-profile fraud. Each syllable reclaimed space. Each fact punctured the false narrative Victoria had built brick by brick. Margaret confirmed the stories, the headlines, the coverage. The crowd, once indifferent, began to shift their gaze, curiosity replacing condescension. Victoria didn't notice. She never did. She continued her social ballet, spinning tales with practiced ease, unaware that the foundation beneath her heels had begun to quake. When she finally approached, flushed and gleaming, it was to mock Elena once more. This time, however, Marcus interrupted. The truth unspooled before Victoria in front of everyone she had worked to impress, her mask slipping with each incredulous denial. Champagne spilled, silence followed, and then whispers, the insidious kind that spread faster than fire. Elena didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her presence, once shadowed, now stood in full light. Her words, quiet and cutting, dismantled the web Victoria had spun. The years of silence, the ignored calls, the deflected accomplishments, they all came back like ghosts, refusing to be buried. Elena named them calmly, as she might in court, her voice steady while Victoria's broke beneath the weight of exposure. Their mother tried to intervene, her face pale with social panic. But Elena held her ground, her truth a blade honed by years of restraint. And then, she walked away. Marcus followed. His questions were filled with disbelief. Not about what Elena had said, but about what he hadn't known. She gave him no promises, only a business card, leaving him to confront the reality of the woman he thought he loved and the sister he never understood. Outside, the night was a balm. Elena drove home with no music, only the sound of her heartbeat steadying, the knowledge that her truth had finally, irrevocably been spoken. The morning after the engagement party, sunlight spilled across Elena's hardwood floors like an accusation. Her phone buzzed relentlessly on the nightstand, a vibrating reminder of the chaos she'd detonated the night before. She ignored it. She brewed coffee slowly, deliberately, anchoring herself in the rituals that had always brought calm before she stepped into her courtroom. But today, the air felt different. Lighter, heavier, charged. She was not expected in court until Monday, but her name had already made the morning news. Social media teemed with photos from the engagement party. Many focused not on Victoria's gown or Marcus's proposal but on the scandal unfolding beside the champagne fountain. Judge Hartwell drops bombshell at Sterling party, read one caption. Others debated whether Victoria had truly been unaware of her sister's profession, or whether the entire affair was a cruel joke. It didn't matter. The truth had its momentum now. A knock came at the door mid-morning. Ellen peered through the peephole and sighed. Marcus. She opened the door slowly. He stood there, not with the desperation of a man seeking absolution, but with the confusion of someone reevaluating everything they thought they knew. He held a paper cup of coffee in one hand and a bouquet of lilies in the other. For the judge, he said quietly. She let him in. They sat on her patio, silent for several minutes before Marcus finally spoke. She lied to me. Repeatedly. She lied to everyone, Elena replied, but mostly to herself. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. It wasn't just the lie. It's the way she looked at you, like you were something she had to apologize for. She always has. Why? Elena paused, choosing her words carefully. Because I didn't play the game. I didn't chase their approval. I didn't try to fit the mold she shaped for herself. I found success, but it didn't look like hers, so it didn't count. Marcus looked at her then. Looked. I think I loved an idea. A version of Victoria that doesn't exist. I thought we were building something honest. Do you still think that's possible? I don't know. They sat in the quiet again, the lilies on the table between them, bright and fragrant. Finally, Marcus stood. I have to talk to her. You should. And you? He asked. Will you talk to her? Elena shook her head. She knows where I am. If she wants to have a real conversation, I'll be here. But I won't chase her anymore. He nodded and left. The next few days passed in a blur of headlines and whispers. Elena returned to work, her colleagues respectful but curious. She dismissed their questions with grace, redirecting focus to the cases at hand. She found comfort in the structure of the courtroom, in the clarity of justice where truth mattered more than appearance. It wasn't until Friday evening that her doorbell rang again. This time, it was Victoria. She looked different. The flawless makeup was gone. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Her shoulders slumped. She didn't speak right away. Elena stepped aside, letting her in. They sat in the same chairs Elena and Marcus had occupied days before. I didn't know how to face you, Victoria whispered. You didn't have to lie about me. I didn't want to feel small. Elena blinked. You were never small, Victoria. You just needed everyone else to feel smaller. Victoria wiped at her eyes. When you sent those announcements, I threw them away. When you called, I let it go to voicemail. I thought if I ignored your success, it wouldn't make mine feel hollow. And did it work? No, silence fell again. But it was different. Now, it was possible. Healing. A fragile bridge forming. I'm sorry, Victoria said. Not just for the lies. For everything. I believe you, Elena replied. They sat together until the sun dipped below the horizon. In the end, the real surprise wasn't Elena's title or Victoria's deception. It was the quiet, complicated love that remained beneath the years of hurt. The kind that survives truth. The kind that begins again. And somewhere deep inside, Elena allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, some masks could come off without leaving scars.